If there's one thing the Conservatives love to talk about is that they are the party of business, and in particular the party of small business. Indeed, they love to try and praise small business owners wherever they possibly can. Be it you'd go for a good local photo opportunity, you name it, whatever they can, it's their bread and butter. However, especially during Brexit, we've really got to talk about the three different types of industries that are really being affected by it. So you've got small, medium, and big. Now, throughout entirely different industries, the different level of these do have huge impacts because, for example, the big industries, the large industries, this to them is an extra cost, but it's not that big a deal. They can, they've got a big enough turnover that they can hire extra people. They can hire experts in to come to their company, come work for them to help solve this. Many of them are already or have been trading with other countries. So to them, export licenses or these new rules to the EU are nothing new because they've been doing them for other countries. But now it's extra paperwork for them. It's an extra cost. The medium-sized companies, sort of depending on how big they are, can be in a sort of a similar position. However, they might have enough turnover not to hire someone, but to be able to pay someone to do this on their behalf for them. They may have done international trade before, they may not have. However, when it comes to the small businesses, these businesses very, very rarely make over what I think a small business average turnover, I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but is between about 50 to 60,000 a year. I think that's a small business average turnover. I think. I could be wrong. It could be a lot smaller than that. Like I say, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm sure someone will tell me. So it doesn't surprise you that it's really been the small businesses who have been suffering most through, especially these past 2 months. And we're going to go over someone in The Guardian has written in who is a small business owner who's telling them this is absolutely a nightmare and the government just aren't listening to us because, well, they don't want to listen. Because if they do listen, that means that they have to acknowledge that there is a problem with Brexit. And of course, that is the last thing this government wants to actually do. So, before we jump into that article, please do remember to hit that like and share button. And of course, down below, there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link. And as always, thank you very much for those people who do support me that way. So, this comes from The Guardian. And the title is, I thought Brexit would be hard for small businesses like mine, but not this hard. I wasn't taken by surprise exactly. I've run a small perfume business and in mid-December we stopped sending deliveries to the European Union countries because we wanted to ensure that nothing was caught in the rush to beat any new trading rules. And in some ways, I've been preparing for such an issue ever since the Brexit referendum was called several years ago. As I always feared, there would be some difficulties for small businesses. However, a little more than a month ago into the new regime, and it's clear that with every new hurdle, there are extra fees to pay, whether it's importing raw materials or sending our products out to the EU. Additional forms need filling out and costs are nudging up. And perfumery is dealing with new custom rules and new VAT regulations. And losing access to the EU cosmetic market at midnight on the 31st of December, all our perfume products automatically became illegal in the EU. And I could make them legal again. However, to do that, I would need a representative base in the EU, a legally appointed responsible person or an RP. But to set this up, companies are offering a service that is quoting up to £1,000 a year per product, and we've got over 60 different items to sell. That's an additional £60,000 of expenditure that we don't have. We'll find a way to make it work eventually, but until we understand the VAT issues, there's no point. One of my friends in the industry thought that he understood the new system. Last year, he confidently said it would only require one extra piece of paperwork, and then there was no need to worry. In January, though, one of his EU-based customers was charged an additional fee of £130 by a delivery company. He still doesn't know why. For many of us in the independent cosmetic sector, a world away from the multinational brands, we have to pause our sales to customers in the EU until we can figure out these problems. The losses for our businesses are mounting though. And another friend is a wholesaler and orders for for Germany, but it can be stuck in a customs somewhere. And a second order is set to go off to Spain, but only to go as far as Middlesbrough, because the shop owner there still has to be registered as a registered importer. And it will take about 3 months to be registered on the Spanish system because of the sudden post-Brexit rush combined with the COVID-19 backlog. Until Brexit was finalised, cosmetics companies all followed EU regulations designed to make sure that every product we used on people's skin and hair was safe. When things changed, some of our British customers were delighted for us, imagining that they would be free from EU constraints and suddenly permitted to use lavish amounts of previously restricted materials such as jasmine, rose and cotton. I think that's how you say it. But what really happened was that in 2019, the government copied and pasted the EU regulations straight into UK law. I watched the official announcement about how we would all be free from EU bureaucracy, knowing that it just simply wasn't true. We have a shiny new UK regulations, but they are exactly the same as what they were before. So, what was the point? In late January, the Department for International Trade ran an online talk advertising on trading with the EU and the rest of the world. It opened with a man telling us, "We've cut the red tape and left the EU." He spoke of the red tape as if it were just a single shiny ribbon that Boris Johnson had cut with huge scissors, unleashing us to take on the world, like the start of the Great North Run. Next, he proudly told us that 5,000 businesses were taking part in the talk, as if that were a good thing, rather than because thousands of small business owners were desperately trying to figure out the new rules and they were having a drastic impact on their livelihoods. Meanwhile, there are hundreds of tiny cosmetics businesses in Britain selling at local markets and at home and on Etsy for orders further afield. The soap and lip balm makers I know used to get their cosmetics safety assessed and then put orders in the post, whether the consumers were in the UK, Ireland or the rest of the EU. To continue to do that so now, they'd have to be registered for VAT and appoint an RP at a great expense. With local markets closed because of COVID-19 restrictions, effectively taking away access to online EU customers is a terrible blow. Without a source of income, many businesses just won't be viable. When Britain is finally settled its trade deal with the EU at the end of December, it hardly seems sensible to rush everything through while the world struggled with the pandemic. Even tax return deadlines have been extended. What small businesses need was to stay in the single market and customs union while we can recover from the shock of the lockdown. But we aren't, and we've got to get on with it. However, what we really need is time to absorb all the new rules, or we are forced to sell our products inside Britain again. And our politicians wave this away as teething problems, or worth it for some amazing benefits which have yet to materialise. They're simply not listening to us. And the person who wrote that is Sarah McCarthy, who makes handmade perfumes at 416 Tuesdays, I think that's how you say it, is an artisan fragrance company that set up back in 2011. And I will not be surprised if there are many companies that set up within the past decade or so that did have access to the EU markets, and because they had access to that EU market were able to expand exponentially, because they were not just limited to the UK. They had a customer base of over 500 billion people, rather than just the 65 billion people currently in the UK. Again, this is a massive blow to companies, and the fact that this was just done at a rush because the Conservatives, especially the Brexiteers, were so desperate to get out that they would just do any deal they possibly could, and this is what it resulted in. And they are now hoping that, the COVID-19 can sort of cover their Brexit tracks. And as we've always said, Doesn't matter that Grove and Co. and all these were saying, oh, it's just teething problems. Oh, don't worry, in 10 years' time, then we'll be able to see if Brexit was a success or not. Doesn't matter because A, these aren't teething problems. These are permanent problems. These forms that companies have to fill out, these costs such as the manager of at least £1,000 per product. Actually, as was said there, they have 60 products. That would be £60,000 a year. It just makes a business just not viable. And in 10 years' time, many of these businesses just may not exist. And yet, this is the party of business. And as we've always said, what forced the Conservatives to join and get serious about joining, at the time was the European Economic Area, was because businesses were crying out, saying, we need access to that market. Businesses are now crying out, saying, we need access to that market. And it will not be long, as we've said before the Conservative group, our Conservative Party, the non-parliamentary party, starts to really push on the parliamentary side of the party. But the problem is, currently, they're all full of really hardcore Brexiteers who have been basically told, if you don't support Brexit, or if you even dare speak out about Brexit, you'll have the whip removed or you'll be punished in some way, shape or form. Every single member of the cabinet is literally a nodding dog who essentially just agrees that Brexit is a good thing and that nothing could possibly go wrong with it. And yet, here we have so many businesses of so many different sectors crying out, going, we need access to the EU's market. And we do not have that same level of access, and this is causing us huge levels of damage. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like and share button on your way out. And of course, down below, there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.